Well, good day there everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Cliff. I'm an Australian gem cutter, and in today's episode we will be discussing moissanite and why has the price of moissanite come down so much. For those of you who don't know, moissanite is a diamond simulant and it was very expensive back in the late 90s, and it's remained fairly expensive not only in rough material but also to buy as a pre-cut gem. So why has the price dropped down in the last 12 months? And we're going to discuss that. So before we do that, into the intro. Good day everyone. In today's video we will be discussing why the price of moissanite has come down so much in price, particularly in the last 12 months. Now we're talking about pre-cut moissanite, as you can see here. Now these moissanites have been sold on platforms such as Alibaba or AliExpress. Now we're not going to be talking about the comparison between diamond and moissanite. Obviously moissanite is a diamond simulant, so we're going to be talking about why the price has come down. So to understand this we need to rewind back to 2022, and we're going to have a backstory about a US retailer and his frustration trying to compete against Alibaba. So here we have this gentleman here, his name is Eddie, and if you look up moissanite scams on YouTube you'll be able to look at some of his videos, but he's so frustrated with the global giants such as Alibaba undercutting him, and he's got lots of reasons. So let's have a look at excerpts of this video.
I want to tell you that all of you are getting scammed or have been scammed. This is the biggest news of 2022, the moissanite scam. Alibaba, moissanite tennis chains, $200. Yes, a company like us, we're selling them for $800 and we're the cheapest. Why? Both of them hit on this diamond tester. This, guys, is fucking trash. I don't want to mention their names, but they're selling you moissanite tennis chains for cheaper than CZ. They're taking glass, they're coating it a special way. They learned how to fool this diamond tester. All of my stones come with certificates like this. Each stone is certified separately. The barcodes are reasonable. When we get parcels of small stones, they come also with certificates from the GRA. Crooks have figured out a way to get around the diamond tester. It's trash. This is trash. I try to bring transparency, try to bring good quality products using the real term moissanite. And then there's companies that sell moissanite.
So to test out what Eddie said is true, I've decided to order moissanite from China from the platform called AliExpress, and yes, it certainly is very cheap, and we're going to test out whether this moissanite is fake. So here you'll see an unpackaging from one of the companies that I've bought from. So I've actually bought these moissanites for my wife because I'm going to set these pre-cut gems into a ring or pendant. So to reiterate again, we're not going to talk about the comparison of diamond compared to moissanite, or what is moissanite, or where moissanite comes from, for example from outer space, because I've actually made a video on how to cut moissanite. So I might tack that on to the end of this video for those people interested, or might drop in a link. You can do either if you don't want to watch the whole video. So here we are with the packaging, and as you can see that we've got the certificates and we've got several moissanites, and on these moissanites it tells you how many carats they are, so the packaging looks all quite legit. So apart from the carat weight listed on each package, which is often the most important thing people want to know about, you know, how much does that gem weigh, how big is it? Well, each package has other details which are really important to the gem itself. For example, it has a serial number, and that serial number matches up to each individual certificate, and not only does it match up to each certificate, it has to match up to the gem sold. So on the girdle of the gem it has a laser etched serial number, and as you can see here close up on this gem, the serial number is GRA 20180407999, and that matches up to the gem itself. So when you look closely at the gem under a loupe or a microscope, it will show that serial number. So this gem here has a different serial number, so this serial number on the girdle will be different. Likewise with this gem, it has another serial number, and that will match up to this gem that's in this container. So here we have a certificate from one of the gems I purchased, and it's got some relevant information about the warranty and some other details. But in my opinion, this is a very grey area when it comes to these certificates. From the research that I've done, you know, this company called GRA, are they a legitimate company? And we're going to discuss that, but I really don't think they are. And you can see there's a label attached with corresponding information which is relevant to the certificate and to the gem. And then as you look at the certificate, the inside of it, we get a report, and that'll show you all the details of the gem. Let's discuss this more. So here we have a different certificate for a different gem, and it comes with a black card which has the same corresponding serial number that's on the gem and on the certificate. And what is really odd about these GRA reports is that they are identical to a report that is designed for a diamond, not for a moissanite. So basically these GRA reports are a direct rip-off from the GIA report, which is the Gemological Institute of America, which is a company that legitimately certifies diamonds. So let's do a quick unpackaging once again, and this comes from AliExpress and from the same company, by the way. So what I did initially, I bought two 6mm gems, and then I bought a 1 8mm gem, and they were relatively cheap. And I thought, well, let's just test out this company, see if this arrives, because those three gems were a lot cheaper than this gem. This is a 10mm gem, and by the way, I thought the price of this 10mm gem was quite good, and that's why I bought it. And I'll put this in a pendant for my wife, and once again it's the same deal, really good packaging. And here we have a 10mm moissanite with a very similar certificate. So everything has arrived, and everything checks out once again. So let's have a quick look inside the envelope. Yes, we have the certificate, and same details will be on it. It'll have a corresponding serial number, and obviously the little black card comes with it. So here's a close-up of the 10mm moissanite that just came out of the package, and on close inspection, just looking at it in the capsule, everything looks really good. It's quite a bright looking gem, so I'm quite happy so far. So once again we're going to check out one more package, and this package once again comes from AliExpress, but it comes from a different seller. And what I'm trying to do is make a comparison between the first seller and this other seller, and we want to check out whether there's a difference in the certificates or the quality of the moissanite. And in particular we want to see whether it still has that laser etching that matches up with the certificate. So as I open up the certificate, we can see that on the bottom right we have the same white sticker with the serial number of the gem and the size. However, the front of the certificate is different on this one compared to the others. It has a silver embossed logo down to bottom left, and we have slightly better packaging. We have the cardboard box, and in it we have the typical silver little bag with the sticker and the serial number on that also. So this all checks out, and the only difference is that from this seller the certificate looks a bit different on the front. So as you can see, in the silver packaging we have the gem, and we also have a label which tells you all the details. It's an 8mm gem, weighs 2 carat, color quality is D, which is very good. And also we have the serial number, which is 2030528. and that will need to check out with the serial number which is laser etched on this particular gem. So we also have, with this certificate, we have the typical warranty card, the black plastic card, which also came with the other two gems. And you'll probably notice that on the certificate we have the scanner barcode, which is a bit different than the other two certificates. So we have the serial number also on this black card. So we're going to have a look at the serial number, and with the naked eye you just can't see it. I've tried and it's not visible. So I'm going to use a jeweler's loop, and this serial number is actually on the girdle outline, and the girdle outline on all these gems are continuous girdle. So under the jeweler's loop, which is a 10 times loop, you can just see it, and we'll zoom in on it. So the serial number under the 10 times loop does check out, and it says GRA 20305208, which is exactly the same as what's on the certificate. So what you see now is the serial number under a 60 times loop. So here you'll see me zoom in with the 60 times loop. It's actually quite hard to film this, but what I find how amazing it is that they can etch these tiny numbers on the side of a gem. So we've checked up on the serial numbers using the loop on each gem, and they all match up according to the certificate. However, I'm going to go on the internet and we're going to check up whether the serial numbers match up to the website address that are on the certificate and the QR codes. So I've selected one of the websites that is listed on the certificates, and as I'm scrolling up and down, there are multiple websites for GRA, Gemological Research Association. Different websites for different certificates by the look of it. So this is already a red flag. It should be only one website, however there are multiple ones. Anyway, I'm going to check out the website that is listed on one of the certificates, and we're going to just punch in the serial number and see what it comes up with. So I'm taken to this link here, which is GRA Moissanite, and it's quite a presentable website. So the next step is just to key in the serial number that was listed on the certificate, and we just want to see what we come up with. And we have a query on the certificate and everything comes up. It gives me all the information, the size of the stone, the quality. So this looks actually quite good. So these companies have gone to quite a great length to authenticate their gems. So what I'm going to do now is stay on the same website, but I want to check out the serial number on one of the gems that comes from a different company. It didn't have a website address listing, only a QR code. However, we still have a serial number, and when I punch that in, we get no query whatsoever. It shows nothing. So let's use the phone, and I'm going to scan the actual certificate, and it takes me to this website here called moissanitereport.com. And as I scroll down, it's quite a flashy little website similar to the other one, well presented, and we'll just key in a different serial number from a different company and different gem obviously, and we get a report. And on this report it shows me everything I need to know about the gem I bought from this different company. It's quite amazing how far these companies from different sellers have gone to actually make these websites so you can check up on the gems you purchased. I reckon it's not bad, but I don't think these GRA websites are legitimate. So we're going to continue on with the investigation to find out whether the legitimacy of the moissanite is actually real or fake. So let's recall what Eddie said about this diamond tester.
This guys is fucking trash.
So here's an actual photo of the diamond tester Eddie uses. He actually sells these diamond testers with his logo on them, and it's the same as mine. And you can buy these between $20 to $25 Australian on eBay, AliExpress or Alibaba. But you need to be able to set them correctly. And you need to set them according to the temperature of the room you're in. And you need to be able to set it accordingly to the weight of the gem. So I've got to set mine on number 2 setting. And most importantly, you need to allow the conductor to heat up. So when you buy these diamond testers, allow the conductor to heat up, because you'll need to be pointing it right onto the gem itself. And we're going to do that in a moment, because the lamp is ready to go and we are set to point the tip of the diamond tester onto the moissanite. Now I'm setting it up correctly to number 2 setting as it tells me to. So we aim it onto the gem, and yes, it's reading as moissanite, which is in the range of diamonds. So this is all testing positive, and these diamond testers do work if you use them correctly. So the next step in the investigation is the scratch test. You may recall that Eddie claimed that all these fake moissanites were glass that were coated with a special material to fool the diamond tester. Well, let's see if that's true.
They're taking glass, they're coating it a special way. They learn how to fool this diamond tester.
So let's do a scratch test to find out whether this theory of Eddie is actually true. Now, if he claims this to be glass, then a harder material like zircon should scratch the outer surface of the glass. However, if this gem is moissanite, then the zircon cannot scratch the surface of moissanite because it's a lot harder material than the zircon. So let's have a close look at what's happened, and we have a little bit of residue which was from the zircon, and we find out that the zircon could not scratch this gem because it is actually moissanite, not glass. And you look at the gem and you see no scratches whatsoever close up. So we can categorically say that with Eddie's theories, they have all been debunked. So we've done all the relevant checks needed to prove that these moissanites purchased in China are the real deal. They are moissanite, but why are they so cheap? And really it all boils down to who's growing and how. So originally there was one company that owned the patent on moissanite, and that patent was owned by a company called Charles & Covart. However, between the years of 2015 and 2018, that patent had expired. So since the patent's expiration, a whole onslaught of different companies from all over the world decided to manufacture moissanite. So often as China does, they become the lead manufacturer and lead supplier of moissanite globally. And this is their MO, oversupplying and selling at low cost. And they do that with everything. Hence, the price of moissanite has become so cheap since the expiration of the patent. So, what did I pay for all of these gems purchased from AliExpress in Australian dollars? Starting with the first seller, I purchased a 14mm 10 carat gem costing $68.84, followed by a 8mm 2 carat gem at the cost of $17.43, and then from the other seller I purchased two 6mm 0.8 carat gems for $11.88, and then from the same seller I purchased an 8mm gem weighing 2 carats for $22.90, and last but not least a 10mm gem weighing 4 carats at the price of $40.07. So what I find interesting as a gem cutter is that the standalone price of a pre-cut moissanite actually costs less than the rough material if I were to purchase the rough material and cut a round brilliant just like this one you see. So it's really not worth my time to go buying a rough material and faceting a gem at these low prices. So if you made it this far into the video, hopefully you found it informative, and thank you for watching it. But if you want to continue watching the video, what I'll do, I'll add an older video where I cut a piece of moissanite from scratch, starting with the rough material, and it's also a different color. So if you want to continue watching that, just stand by for that, because that's coming up now. So it's bye from me. Take care, everyone. Good day there, viewers. My name is Cliff. I'm a gem cutter from Australia, and welcome to my channel called Vintage Time. For all my regular subscribers and viewers, I'm certainly glad that you can join us again, And for anyone new who's joining or watching my channel for the first time, it's a pleasure that you could watch the process of how gemstones are cut. In today's episode of How to Cut Gemstones, I'll be featuring moissanite, which is usually a lab-grown gemstone, but it also occurs in nature. So what is moissanite? Moissanite is a mineral which was discovered by Henry Moissan while examining rock samples from a meteor crater located in Canyon Diablo, Arizona back in 1893. Initially at first he identified the crystals as diamonds, but later in 1904 he identified the crystals as being silicon carbide. Due to moissanite's rarity in nature, most moissanite these days is lab grown. Moissanite was initially introduced to the jewellery market in 1998 by a company known as Sea-Free Inc., which is more commonly known as Charles & Colvard. They were the first company to receive the patents to create the market lab-grown silicon carbide gemstones, which was trademarked under the name Forever One, Forever Brilliant and Forever Classic. These days moissanite is lab created all over the world in countries such as China, India or Russia. With a Mohs hardness of 9.5, it exceeds the hardness of most other natural gems. It also has a refractive index of 2.65, which is a little higher than diamond. So these days moissanite is regarded as a great diamond alternative. So the initial preparation is now complete, where I've glued the gem to a brass stopstick and I've allowed it to set within a transfer jig overnight. The following day the dopstick is placed within the quill of the faceting machine, and now I'm ready to start faceting the pavilion. Here is the design I intend to facet, which is an emerald cut design, and I thought it suited the shape of the moissanite. So with most rectangular designs or even with squares, the first 4 facets are cut to a temporary center point, and later on you'll be cutting more facets and that center point will be removed. I need to say that with this particular piece of moissanite, I did buy it cheap. It comes from India. It's not as bright or brilliant as you would expect to be a white moissanite. It's quite brown and yellowish in color. But it does have impairments, and I do feel that I'll strike some issues as I'm faceting this gem. This is my first time I've ever faceted moissanite, so I thought I would buy a cheaper piece and just see how I go. For a synthetic gem, moissanite is relatively expensive. The higher quality moissanite is around about 1/10 of the price of diamond. So as you can see, my moissanite is not of the highest quality. You can see all the imperfections in this piece of moissanite, and I've polished one face because I need to test out how this material polishes, and it's a bit of a devil to polish, very easy to cut. It seems fairly soft, a little bit like topaz, but polishing is another issue. I'll explain that a bit later on. I've reset the protractor because I'll be cutting another set of pavilion facets, and I've decided to use a 1200 grit instead of the 800 because it cuts fairly fast. The second set of pavilion facets have been completed, and as you can see on the surface of the gem, there's a little bit of debris emerging from within the interior of the stone, so hopefully I can remove some of this, but doing that means there's going to be compromises. And here you can see that I've completed the third set, and then there'll be several other sets as I move along through the pavilion facets. So all the main pavilion facets have been completed, and during the entire process I've only used a 1200 grit disc. Now I'm on to faceting the girdle outline, still using a 1200 grit diamond disc, and I've got the protractor angle set at 90 degrees. Faceting moissanite feels very much like when you're faceting topaz. It has a softer feel on the lap, not quite as abrasive as cubic zirconia or quartz. So the girdle outline has been complete, and it becomes a little bit more obvious now when you see some of these imperfections, but I'll just keep moving on and see what happens. 4 more opposing facets have been cut that meets up with the girdle outline, creating the V shape that meets the coulette. So here's a little trick when you're cutting those real tiny micro facets and you do not want to overcut when the machine's running. Get out a black highlighter pen and highlight the area that you want to facet. So the next step is to get a very fine diamond plated disc, a 3000 pre-polish or 1200 grit disc, which is very worn, will do the trick. Make sure you wet the disc properly. You are not going to be running the machine via the motor. Select your correct index number, of course, and have the protractor angle set at the correct angle that you wish to facet this little facet. So you'll lower the mast and gently swipe manually across the disc a couple times. So as you can see, with 2 little swipes with no motor running, we've cut a tiny facet, and you can see where it's removed the ink from the highlighter on the surface of the gem. So I'm ready to polish the pavilion, and I've read that polishing moissanite can be tricky as you need to be very precise in all the phases of the pre-polish. It's for understanding of the use of these various oils on these porous white metal laps that has a huge bearing on the way a gem is polished. You'll find that the slickness and dryness of different oils retains the diamond compound in a different way. With the Herco Valve oil, it's very dry and the application needs to be used more, but the tenacity of cutting out scratch is far greater than other oils. In the following scenes you'll get to see all the various facets that have been polished, and you also get to see all the imperfections within this particular gem. ready to start faceting the crown, and I've just done the secondary transfer of the dop stick. The original dop stick has been removed and I've glued another dop stick in order that this crown can be faceted. So I'm only going to be adding 2 steps on this crown, and there will be a little bit of cheating I need to do because there were a few compromises in faceting the pavilion. So sometimes when that happens, you know there's going to be a little bit of misalignment on some of the crown angles, but that's what the cheater is there for. So let's get cracking and get this crown cut. For those people who don't know what a cheater is on a faceting machine, it's a little dial or a knob that can do fine micro adjustments. You can use this dial to move a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. These fine micro adjustments, left or to the right, help align facets so they meet correctly. So the first step of the crown has been faceted at an angle of 45 degrees, and we've created a girdle outline, and the measurement of this gem